Today we're looking at 4 really common nouns that confuse learners all the time: development, arrangement, agreement, and movement. And you might be thinking, what's tricky about these words? Well, here's where they get confusing. Each one of these words can be countable in some situations and uncountable in others. And if you mix them up, your English will sound unnatural. So in this lesson, I'll show you when each word is countable, when it's uncountable, and give you clear example sentences so you can start using them correctly right away. First up, development. When we talk about development as the general process of growth or improvement over time, it's uncountable. For example, we could say, this country needs more investment in economic development. This means the country should spend more money to improve its economy. Things like building infrastructure, creating jobs, or supporting industries. Economic development here is about the overall process of improving the economy, not about individual projects. Our second example, we have nurturing environments are vital for healthy brain development in children. This means that children do best when they are in caring and supportive surroundings. Brain development here refers to the general growth and improvement of the brain over a long period of time, not separate events. With both of these sentences, development is a big idea, a process that happens over time. It's not one or two specific events. But when we're talking about a specific event, a specific change, or a specific project, then the noun development becomes countable. For example, we could say there have been several new developments in the investigation. This means that some new events, changes, or pieces of information have happened or been discovered during the investigation. Developments here is countable because we're talking about individual changes or updates. So in this sentence, developments does not mean the general process of growth, but it means specific events or updates that you can count. Our next example sentence here says, the city approved 3 new housing developments. And this means that the city government officially agreed to build 3 different housing projects. Each housing development is a planned area where new houses or apartments will be built. Here, the word developments is countable because we're talking about 3 separate projects. You can see them on a map. You can count them. This is different from the uncountable use of development, which describes a general process. In this case, developments refers to specific individual projects that the city decided to move forward with. So remember, development is uncountable when talking about process, growth, or improvement in general, and it is countable when talking about specific events, specific changes, or specific projects that you can count. Now let's talk about the noun arrangement. When arrangement means the general act of organizing or placing things, it's uncountable. Like in this sentence, the arrangement of the furniture makes the room feel bigger. Here we use arrangement as an uncountable noun because it refers to the overall way the furniture is organized, not individual countable pieces or actions. We don't say arrangements here because the focus is on the general layout or organization. We're talking about the overall effect rather than separate arrangements. Our next example here says, the arrangement of the books on the bookshelf looks neat. Here we use arrangement as an uncountable noun because it refers to the overall organization or order of the books as a whole. We don't say arrangements here because the focus is on generally how it appears. It appears neat and orderly as a whole. So because we're talking about overall organization in these 2 sentences, not individual items, we're using arrangement as an uncountable noun. But when arrangement refers to a specific plan or deal, it's countable. Like in our first sentence, we made travel arrangements for the long weekend. Here we use arrangements as a countable noun because we're talking about specific plans or organized actions that can be identified separately. Each arrangement is part of the overall plan, such as booking a hotel, buying plane tickets, and scheduling activities. We use the plural arrangements here because there is more than one specific plan involved. Our next example says, the company finalized arrangements for the merger with its partner. In this sentence, the countable form is used because it refers to multiple specific plans or actions needed to complete the merger. Each arrangement, such as signing contracts, scheduling meetings, and coordinating legal steps, is a distinct countable item. So remember that arrangement is uncountable when talking generally about how things are organized, and it is countable when talking about specific plans or deals. All right, now let's talk about the noun agreement. When agreement means the general state of being in harmony or having the same opinion, it's uncountable. Our first example using agreement as an uncountable noun is, there was complete agreement on the issue. Here we use agreement as an uncountable noun because it refers to everyone sharing the same opinion. Our second example says, there was widespread agreement that the new policy was necessary. In this one, we use agreement as an uncountable noun because it refers to a general shared opinion among people. So in these two sentences, we're talking about a shared opinion or general harmony, not individual documents. So we're using the uncountable form. When agreement is used to talk about a formal contract, deal, or decision, then it's countable. Our first example says, they signed 2 trade agreements. In this sentence, we use agreements as a countable noun because we're talking about specific individual contracts that can be counted. Each trade agreement is a separate document or deal between the two groups. So we use the plural agreements to show that more than one contract was signed. Our second example says, we finally reached an agreement after hours of discussion. This time we use agreement as a countable noun because we're talking about a specific decision or deal that the people agreed to. So because we're talking about one particular outcome or resolution, we're using the singular and countable form, unlike the uncountable agreement, which would be used to refer to a general shared opinion. So remember, with the noun agreement, it's uncountable when talking about general harmony or consensus, and it's countable when used to talk about specific contracts, deals, or decisions. Finally, let's talk about the noun movement. When movement refers to general motion or activity, it's uncountable. There was movement in the water. In this sentence, we use movement as an uncountable noun because it refers to general motion, not separate actions. We don't say movements here because the focus is on the overall activity of the water, like the waves or the ripples, rather than counting individual motions. Our second example says, there has been little movement in the value of the dollar. With this example, movement is an uncountable noun because it refers to the general change or activity, not separate countable changes. We don't say movements here since the focus is on the overall stability rather than small individual daily changes. With both of these sentences, we're describing general motion. We aren't counting individual actions, so we're using movement as an uncountable noun. But when movement refers to a specific social group or organized action, it becomes countable. For example, we could say social media has helped new movements gain support quickly. Here we use movements as a countable noun because it refers to specific social campaigns or organized efforts, such as environmental or political movements. We say movements as plural here because there are multiple efforts. We aren't referring to a general activity. So in this sentence, social media helps these individual movements reach more people and grow faster. Our next example here says, indigenous movements work to protect their land and traditions. So in this sentence, indigenous people, who are the original inhabitants of an area, are taking action to defend their land and traditions. This sentence uses movements in the plural form because it refers to different organized groups of indigenous people. Each movement is a distinct social group with its own members, leaders, and strategies. We don't use movements in its uncountable form here, since it's not one single effort, but rather many separate groups working in different places. So just remember, if you can name it, it's usually countable. If you're just talking about motion in general, it's usually uncountable. My challenge to you is to pick one of these nouns and create 2 example sentences in the comments. One using its countable form and one using its uncountable form. And if you found this video helpful, hit those outstanding like and subscribe buttons. See you in the future!